Welcome to Recipe to Success, the show where we sit down with entrepreneurs from all different backgrounds to learn more about their journey to success. My name is Humza Zahoor, CEO and founder of Awaken. I hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to another episode of Recipe to Success. Today I'm really excited because not only do we have an amazing entrepreneur, but she's also a social media influencer with a huge following, and there's a big story to tell with her. Erim, how you doing?
Hello, nice to be with you.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So first off, how's everything going? How's quarantine been?
It's been good. I feel like we've slowly transitioned kind of like into less lockdown. So it hasn't been like a really sudden opening of the world, which is good. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have been able to handle that.
So for anyone living under a rock that hasn't maybe seen your face on Instagram or heard anything about you.
So everyone.
Who is Erim and what do you do?
So I kind of initially began as an influencer, and that page just slowly grew because it was aimed at young girls who don't have a mum or any sisters like myself, to just kind of be a place to share information that I don't think anyone else thinks to share. So stuff about like how to wash your hair, what is the best like tablets when you're on your period, when it hurts, these types of things. And it really started to gain traction, and I think I started to grow my sisterhood a little bit. And then I launched my own business, which is By Erin, which I know we'll talk about later.
Yeah, we will. So you mentioned something straight away, that your followers are like a sisterhood, and that's something that I noticed a lot, is that compared to especially other influencers, you don't just see them as followers or fans per se, you see them as a genuine like sisterhood.
Yeah.
So was that always the intention from day one? Or was it like you just kind of grew and then you realized, okay, I actually want to treat these people like my family?
I feel like that's very much like my personality. So I always just wanted sisters so badly. And as I was just being me, which is I'm a very like girl's girl, I think that kind of translated to my followers and it organically started to get shared. So for me, all I feel is that I just have like, obviously not all of my audience is girls, but like 100,000 girls, 186,000 girls who are my sisters. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably one of the reasons why, it's not just that you've got a large following, but your audience is so engaged. You know, people really tune into everything you do, whether that's your Instagram, whether that's your brand or your YouTube. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to ask that. So how did it all begin? Mm-hmm. Go back a little bit, think about it. Like, how did your whole Instagram account start?
Mm-hmm. So I actually wasn't allowed social media until I was 18. My dad would not let me, and I was the last person, and I was telling him the summer before I went to uni, and I was like, listen, I need it. I'm not gonna have any friends if I don't have Instagram. And he was like, all right, fine. And I got it, and it was a very basic account when I was at uni. You know, I was posting like cute breakfasts, night outs, like photos, my outfits, like nothing ever intentional.
What year was this?
I went to uni in 2013. Mm-hmm. So Instagram was very much established, but still to some extent compared to what it is now, in its infancy. And I think I just generally had a lot more followers than the average student maybe, And then when I graduated, I remember I found it. So I got a first class degree in business from the University of Manchester. Wow. Now that makes me sound smart. I could not get a job for so long. And in that interim, I decided to work at Cloud 23, which is like like a sky bar in Manchester, really bougie, really beautiful. So because I was working there every day, I was wearing like really nice dresses, heels, doing my makeup because I was obviously on the door. And in having that opportunity to like look nice every day, I was like to all my girlfriends that I lived with, please take photos of me. And they would do it. And I think because I was just posting consistently, and I think because I was really being me, because every follower I gained, like I wasn't like, oh, you're lucky you have me. Like from the bottom of my heart, like any time that my followers are like, oh my God, Erin, you saved me. I'm like, no, you saved me. Like to this day, like they saved me so many times and they have no idea. So I started to kind of grow it from there, hit around 5K, moved back home to London, and I still could not find a job for the life of me. No one would hire me.
With a first class degree?
That don't mean anything to these people.
It's crazy.
But maybe like, I don't know, like I also don't think I'm the type of person who performs well in a 9 to 5 environment. Like I've been fired so many times, and I'm not an office job type of girl. Like I just hate that. So I just think over time, I think I was just slowly realizing this really isn't for me. In the meantime, I was working on my Instagram. And again, it was quite a passive and like more of a passionate thing that I was doing. And slowly I started to gain traction and brands were sending me things, and I started to take it a little bit more seriously as potentially like a financial kind of like route to go down. And I think, you know, whilst Instagram most definitely is a job and you have to sit down, you have to put the time in, I think you just saw me now thinking I need to post a photo and it was like, I need 20 minutes. It very much is always going to be like a sisterhood for me. And I think organically it just grows when you have like a true meaning behind it.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned you obviously got to 5k and then you started getting brand deals at some point.
Yeah.
When did you really feel like, okay, this is a turning point, like this is actually going well, I'm actually making money from this and I no longer need that job that I was looking for, but this is actually my future?
You know what's so funny is you always have like, as an influencer, or at least I do, you always have a kind of like your like passing go point. So when I got to 50k, I was like, I've made it, I've done it, I can quit my job. And then when I got to 50k, I was like, actually no, like I'm only halfway to 100, like I don't have anything. And then I got to 100 and I was like, I made it. And then I got there and I was like, but I'm only at the beginning of the hundreds. I need to get to like 150 to be really established. And every single time you pass go at these checkpoints, you realize you're entering another bracket of like influencers and you're at the bottom of that bracket. So I don't even think right now I've kind of like made it, because I look at girls with like 1 million and I'm like, wow. But I guess like younger me would look at me, younger me as in a year ago when I had 50k, would look at me and be like, oh my God, you made it.
I think it's funny because a lot of the time when we're dealing with success or living our life in the present, we don't actually realize our accomplishments. Like from the outside point of view, people will look at you and think you've got 187,000 followers, right. You know, you're huge, your engagement's great, you know, you've got the ideal influencer life. But obviously from your point of view, it just seems that you're like a competitive person, you want to be the best. So when do you feel like you would have made it? Like, is it a certain amount of followers, or is it just another milestone?
I feel like, how long is a piece of string? Do you know what I mean? I have no idea.
Never ends, you think?
No, I have no idea, because I feel like when I get to 1 million, if I ever do, it's going to be a situation where I'm like, but now I'm in the million club and there's girls out there with 5 million. And that means, and for me, it's not necessarily like a competitive thing. When I see girls, especially in my niche, which is quite small, so like South Asian, UK based girls, when I see them get a collaboration with a brand or reach a certain follower count, for me, like from the bottom of my heart, all I'm thinking is they done it. That means I can do it. And when I see someone else doing it, I have the self-esteem and I'm like, if they can do it, I certainly can do it, you know?
Mm-hmm. I think from my perspective, I think you also pioneered a certain niche within influencing, because whilst you have got the South Asian community, it's like you've got a really, really unique balance. Like you talk about good things and you're very honest with your audience, but you choose not to promote certain brands like by choice, just because of who you are. And I think that authenticity really kind of shows. Was that something that you were always committed to doing, like being authentic?
I think that really comes from the fact that I'm third generation. So my parents were born here in the UK. So I naturally have quite a balance between like the British side of me as well as the Indian side of me, and maybe more so than my peers, because the majority of my peers, their parents were actually born in India. So I think maybe that's where that balance comes across.
Okay.
And I forgot the end of your question.
Yeah, I was saying, did you always intentionally want to kind of have that authentic side of you? Because let's be honest, there's a lot of influencers out there, they promote brands that maybe they don't personally use themselves, or you know, they just do it as a financial vehicle as opposed to really kind of being authentic with their audience.
I have a story for you.
Go for it.
So I've been working since I was 14 years old, and I used to get given £5 an hour. And I remember when I was 16 years old, I wanted to buy everyone in my family a Christmas present. And I had £30. I went all the way out to my local high street and I managed to buy every single one of them a present with that £30. And wow. I went back and I was so proud of myself because it's the first time I've done it. That girl that valued every single pound that she made is who I envisage my audience to be. So I know that if influencers, I feel very passionate. If influencers existed when I was 15, 16 years old, and someone like me existed, because I'm really trying to appeal to my younger self, right? Because that's all I know. I would have taken every single thing that this girl said as gospel. I would have never questioned anything, because I would have loved me. You know, I'm trying to be what I needed. And whenever I do a brand deal, I always think to myself, like, okay, if this face wash is £10, that's going to take one of my girls 2 hours to earn. Imagine what I was doing for 2 hours, like I was a hostess, for 2 hours standing on my feet, giving menus and talking to people, all for a face wash. Like, is that face wash worth it that I'm promoting to these girls? And if it is, then I do the collaboration, because I never, ever, ever want one of these young girls who spent an hour of their time to earn £5-10 to go to the store to buy something that is bad.
But I think that's actually worked in your advantage as well. Like, that's obviously who you are, and going back to that story, you know, it's embedded in you. But it's actually worked to your advantage, because majority of influencers now, like, they will promote anything that they get offered most times. And so their audience also becomes a little bit disengaged, because they're like, okay, we're constantly seeing promo and things like that. Whereas when Erim posts an ad, or, you know, a sponsored post, it's like your audience really knows that, okay, not only does she actually believe in this product, but this is something that we probably would want to buy ourselves.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think that definitely shows.
Listen, I'm a lot poorer than some of these ones, because I'm not taking all these collaborations that are paying all the money, so they better buy it whenever I promote it.
But long term, it's obviously it's the long game. I think a lot of influencers, like, they may have already cashed in with all the brands, but then longevity wise,
100%, and engagement is everything, as you know.
Mm-hmm. So that was obviously the whole influencer side. You know, you started, you got to 50k, 100k, etc., and it grew from there. And you were very selective with the brands that you worked with. And then you made the leap into starting your own brand. What was the thought process behind that?
So for me, like, even when I call an Uber, I always say to them, I'm the girl wearing all black, obviously not in this case, and I'm the girl with long hair. Like, that's my identifying feature, is having long hair. And the reason for that is because my mum, who died when I was 8 years old, she had really, really long hair, like long straight black hair, just like mine. And growing up, because I was living with my dad and my brother, no one knew how to do hair. So my dad cut it like into a bob. And I was like too young to know how to like shampoo my own hair and everything, or style it. And as I was growing older and I was reading a lot of like those little teenage girl magazines, I don't know if you have a sister who read them. Yeah. Like Ms. Magazine, Miss Sporty, like all of these makeup companies. And I was becoming more aware as to what like self-care and like identity was. And I realized like short hair just like is not the one. It was like a bob, did not suit me. My face is way too fat for a bob. No, trust me.
Okay.
No.
I don't know what angle you're fat from, but
this angle. So I started to like speak to my grandma, because she is like queen of the kitchen. And I was like, Daddy, we need to like grow my hair. Like, I need to look like mummy. And then she started to create all of these different formulas and recipes, and you know, there were some weird ones. We used onion juice, which actually does work. We used like neem, which smells really bad, but there were so many different options, and we ended up, when I was around 14 years old, landing on the formula that we have now, and It never changed. So as I was gaining followers when I was around like 22 years old, I'd been using that formula like nearly all my life. And not only myself, but my daddy. I actually posted a video on my Instagram, on my By Erim Instagram tonight. My masi is Amritari. Do you know what that means? So baptized Sikh. Okay. So you know how Sikhs don't cut their hair? Mm-hmm. Her hair is 48 inches long.
Wow.
And she wears, basically it's called a ramal. So it's kind of like a head covering. And I did a tutorial showing how if you're Amritari, or even if you wear a hijab, or if you wear a turban, a pug, you can use this oil. So she's been using it since she was so young, or versions of it, not necessarily the exact same one. So it really is like a family recipe. And I just thought to myself, you know what, there's a lot of girls, and I was very lucky and I was very blessed, that means God, to have my daddy in my life. But there are some girls that don't have that, and they don't have a mum or aunties or sisters. And I just thought that I'll be doing them a disservice of not having the like luxury of having beautiful hair and having this like generation passed down formula. So at the time I was working in, I was consulting for a company, and my contract ended, and then I had another contract with another company, and I really didn't like it. And then a really close friend of mine just kept on saying to me, Erin, you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to launch it. And they just really, really pushed me, and I will forever be grateful for that person. And slowly we just started to get all the elements in, the packaging. We got the formula sent off to the lab. We got the suppliers. We got everything. And it kind of just slowly came together before my eyes. But the one thing, I don't know if you've experienced this, that killed me was the sticker. No one appreciates my sticker.
I think I saw you talking about that.
Because I always talk about my sticker.
But it has to be perfect, like in the right place.
Oh my God. But even the manufacturing of the sticker, because the UV spot, which is the bumpy kind of braille-like black gel, is right next to the foil I know I'm getting really technical. Basically, it took me 6 months to find someone, and it wasn't even me who found it in the end. So there's all of these elements that just took me over a year to get together, and I had so much help from so many people, which I'm so grateful for. And then we just launched, and I actually only had 250 bottles when I first launched. And I had a little note in my phone, and I asked all of the people around me, how many do you think I'm going to sell in the first day? The highest that someone thought was my dad, and he only said 150. So at least he believed in me, but I actually sold out. And I remember that was one of the best days of my life. Like that and my graduation, one of the best days of my life. And from that, I was like, I can do something. And since then, it's just been like iterations of the same thing. We're updating the packaging. I'm growing my team. I think we have now 10 members of staff. And we're trying to make it something bigger than just Erim's oil, you know? It's By Erim, it's a brand.
Wow, so that's the origin story. You made it sound so easy though. Like obviously it was a year process, but I'm sure there was a lot of hardships along the way as well.
Yeah, and tears.
Tears as well.
No one appreciates how hard it is, because I didn't have a factory, so I was literally with my friends in a hotel room. I had like 5 girlfriends come round, and I booked a hotel room. We were just like a little sweatshop. Like we were I wasn't even paying any of my friends. I was just giving them food. I was like, you can sleep over if you want to. Really hard, really draining, but it was so worth it. And I actually think you need to go through those hard things and physically be the one to put the stickers on yourself, physically be the one to carry the boxes upstairs and put them in your car and take them to the post office, before you can have the luxury of where I am now, which is having a warehouse. But then potentially in 1 year's time, I might look back at how I am now and be like, what was I doing?
I think also like with business, sometimes you have to lead from the front, because then as you scale, like now you've got 10 members of staff, you've done all the processes that you're asking your staff to do.
That's so true.
So it's like, you know how it should be done properly. So when you're explaining to them, it's not just you're hoping that it's going to work the way you're saying it, but you've actually done it from experience.
That's so true.
That's one thing that I always push to people. What's the vision though for ByErim? Obviously now it's done really well. You know, your influencer audience has really pushed it, and it's done a whole thing on its own. But what is the vision? What's the long-term goals for ByErim?
I think I want to be in retailers. I would love to be in the likes of Selfridges. I'm manifesting this. If the universe is listening. Selfridges, Harvey Nichols and Harrods, because it is a luxury product, but it is still really affordable compared to my competitors, I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. So for anyone that maybe doesn't follow you, but they found the podcast, what I know you spoke about, like that you were using the oil from a very young age and stuff, but from a girl's perspective, like what makes it so special? What would you say? So
number one, we use the highest quality oils that you can possibly find in the UK. It's all UK made as well. I was born here, my parents are born here, I'm relatively proud, and I want to be able to support the UK economy. And that was really tough. And I can imagine your business as well might have been affected by COVID. That was really tough to kind of maintain that relationship when there was incremental prices increase. You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah, across the whole supply chain. And I was just sat there like, it has 8 oils, and you are never, ever, because this took my family generations to perfect this formula. You are never going to be able to make this at home, because there are so many qualities about it. It's non-greasy, like it smells gorgeous, so many things. And I just think it's one of those things that you need to try it. And I often say to people, give it 3 months. Wait 3 months to really give like your hair to go through its cycles. I can talk about hair forever. If you want to know the science of hair, I got you.
You're really passionate about it. You can tell that you really believe in your product.
I feel like a lot of people like, you need to launch a gym line, and I was like, I work out once a week. Like, I don't think that would make as much sense, but hair I'm like obsessed with. It is just an effective oil, and there's a lot of people, I always say to them, as I was mentioning, wait 3 months before you see results. But these people use it overnight, and they're like, Erim, I just need to send you a voice note. I'm obsessed. And I just feel like, well, yeah, it works. I told you.
So let's go back a little bit. I know from your Instagram you mentioned your dad quite a lot, and he's been a big part of your success with your business and stuff like that. And in spirit of Father's Day, why don't we talk a little bit about your dad and how he's kind of helped you with this journey? Yeah,
so he is literally my best friend. It's funny though, when I started the business, for the first 3 or 4 months, he was like to me, I don't want to be involved because I want you to be able to say that you've done this on your own. And I just remember I encountered so many hurdles, but I actually just like walked through them on my own. And it was the first time kind of, because my dad is just really like, he's an amazing businessman. He really is. I know a lot of girls say that my dad really is. He's a mentor to a lot of younger boys, and he's just fantastic. He's my go-to for everything. But I think because he forced me, and he is that type of guy that will throw you in at the deep end, because he forced me to do these things on my own, I think he wanted me to prove that I was worth my salt. I believe that's the correct expression. Have you heard of that one? Yeah. And then when he came on board after my second drop, like my whole business changed. He was like, all right, you proved it works, people are buying it, you're good, now let me take over the whole production side of things. So right now he's my managing director. Wow. And like what he's done, I would have never in a million years been able to do. But the thing, do you work with your family?
No, I don't actually. Not business wise, but obviously everything I do, the foundation of it is for my family.
Of course, yeah.
But I know that some people struggle with it, some people it works for them. So I don't think it's a right or wrong answer, but I think the fact that he's obviously helped you with your business is amazing, and it's inspiring for a lot of people.
I hope so, because I feel that working with a family has a bad rep, but for me, and at least every relationship is 100% different, don't get me wrong, but I just know that like dad, like 100% like has my back, and he's never going to make a decision that's wrong for me or the business. And I don't know if I'd have that trust with like an employee that I've like got a contract, do you know what I mean? Yeah,
definitely. I think sometimes when it's something so close to your heart as well, like your business is like...
Listen, Humza, I'm telling you, there's not blood in my veins, there's ByErim oil in my veins. I say this all the time, but I really mean it.
No, I think we can tell the passion. So I mean, obviously everything kind of now is built up to a point where, you know, you've built success for yourself, you know, you've done it all by yourself, whilst obviously you've had help by your family and things like that. You know, you've got to this point. So
it's all self-funded.
Exactly.
Let me interject right there. There's a lot of threads online where it's like, Daddy help. No, Daddy did not help me. Trust me, to this day.
I think on one of your YouTube videos, the assumption was, do you come from a rich family as well? And people just assume things. But obviously you've got to this point by yourself. No one's kind of done it for you. You've done everything. So what advice would you give to young female entrepreneurs, or just entrepreneurs in general, that want to start a business and side note / an influencer career?
Okay, I think I can answer those two things very separately because completely different worlds.
Of course.
With regards to starting their own business, I would really take some time, because I never want to encourage someone to do something where it's potentially not going to be successful, because it's very expensive to start a business. Take some time to do your market research, assess whether there's a gap in the market. For me, I felt that there was. I know that there might be other brands out there who exist who are doing the same thing, but I think an Erim oil was missing. And that's what I filled the gap with that. So definitely do your market research, assess whether there's a gap in the market existing. I would also say have difficult decisions with people who you know will always give you the truth. So there were some things that like I wanted, and then someone would be like, Erim, no way in hell can you have that type of sticker. And then I go off and cry, and then I think about it and I'd be like, they're right, I just didn't want to hear it. So be willing to have those tough conversations. And then also be aware that you're going to make mistakes, because on a daily basis, like the reason why I have XYZ members of staff is because I'm not a specialist in all of these things. And I think be good at what you're good at and accept what you're good at, and then outsource the rest, because you are not a superhero. You do not need to know every single thing of your business until it gets to a point where, like, at the beginning, yeah, fair enough, I was sticker expert and then I was like lid expert, but now it's just kind of like those things are outsourced. So be willing to offload any responsibilities that you think you're not good at, because like I said, you don't need to be superhero.
And sometimes it's difficult because when the product is or service is so close to your heart, like you become a bit of a control freak in running a business. And it's a real like leap of faith when you give a side of the business to someone.
But Sis has NDAs boxed off like every 5 minutes. I'm here you go.
But I 100% agree. And what about influencer career? Because I think obviously there's a lot of hardships that come with being an influencer. Obviously there's a lot of positives too, and people don't realize how hard it is too. So what is your advice for anyone that wants to become an influencer?
It is so much harder, because I was consulting 4 days a week, and then I was working 2 nights a week at a nightclub on the door, and then on the last day, Sunday, I don't know why I called it the last day, on Sunday I was spending the whole day with one of my girlfriends shooting. It's so tiring, but you have to love it. And it's got to a point now where I've streamlined my process for taking photos, and I'm a little bit better at ad hoc taking photos in the spot, whereas usually I schedule all 10 outfits, I find a location, I go with my assistant, we shoot the whole day. She's a hair and makeup artist, by the way, Hani, it's BMUA if you want to follow her. And like we kind of like adapt my look throughout the day. But in addition to that, I think the influencer landscape right now is very different. From my opinion, professionally, and as well as speaking to a lot of other professionals in the industry, if you didn't really make it by the end of last year, it's going to be very hard for you to break through unless you do something that's like incredibly viral, or you're bringing
TikTok.
like TikTok. Listen, I'm TikTok queen. I'm obsessed with TikTok. But like, it's all about first mover advantage. So when I was at uni, there wasn't that many like big Asian girls. So then when I slowly started posting, I was just one of the few Asian girls that was just like actually taking time to post every single day and like create structured stories and stuff like that. Now it's so saturated. So you need to have a very unique thing that you're offering. And it doesn't necessarily mean aesthetically. I think a lot of people are like, my feed's going to be green and I'm the only one who's doing green. And it's just like, you could be, and that could work for you. But ultimately, I think it's the energy that you're portraying, and you can't copy someone else's energy. To anyone else who's listening who does that, don't copy someone else's energy, because it will never be authentic.
Do you think that aesthetics matter that much on Instagram? Because I feel like what I've seen from a lot of micro influencers that want to make it, they overcomplicate the whole aesthetic thing, and then they'll set like a green theme, and then they've got like a really good picture that they like, but they can't post it because it's not green.
Okay.
And do you see what I mean? So from your perspective, is it very, very important?
So I think these are the people who either are just like very aesthetically driven and they're doing it for themselves. Like they like curating a beautiful feed. And I know so many of my girlfriends who have private accounts that's just for them to piece together really beautiful things. But I think a lot of the time what that means is that unless you're doing it for yourself, you're doing it for brands, because you want to show them that you have a really professional curated feed and it's beautiful and aesthetic, and they can imagine what the content that you would produce for them would look like. I'm a bit more of a wild card. You don't really know whether I'm going to be taking a photo with my car, or whether I'm going to be in my bedroom with a mirror selfie, or I'm going to be doing a hair flip on my balcony. You know, like there's such a different variety of types of content. And at the start, I actually don't know. Do you remember when I used to do quotes every third post?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Why was I doing that? I had a meeting with, Elf Cosmetics. Thank this lady, because she was like, Erin, what the hell are you doing? And I stopped doing them.
What was wrong with it though, from their point of view?
They were just like, you're doing it because you feel that you don't have like a theme, but you are the theme. And then I realized like there's little things about me that I can edit in fact. Like not all my photos need to be me standing in the center, full length, smiling. Like it could be me sitting, it could be a close-up, it could be a mid shot, and that's where I started to develop, like I became my theme. So like brown and black hair became my color aesthetic, if you know what I mean.
Okay. And also, would you say that a big part of why you made it and kind of bridged the gap was because you had a mission? Like it was more than just posting pictures on Instagram.
I was lucky.
It was obviously a bit deeper, like you said, sisterhood.
Yeah.
As opposed to just being unique, you actually have to have a purpose potentially.
Honestly, Humza, like I think I was lucky. I think it was first mover advantage. I think I was very, very committed to posting every single day, and I still do that. Up until recently, like I might skip like one day every 2 weeks, but there was 3 years consecutively where I did not miss a single day, and that's really hard to do when you got like 3 jobs.
Literally.
Yeah. So I think it's that, but then, yeah, maybe I think aesthetically, like I don't necessarily look a particular ethnicity, so maybe a lot of people were able to identify with me. I don't really know. I really think it was lucky though. Thank you.
So, in terms of obviously your influencer kind of side of things, right? There's a lot of things that go into it as opposed to just posting. Like obviously it was very difficult posting every day and things like that. But deeper than that, obviously one thing I've noticed about you is you're very good at dealing with brands and negotiating, and you're like a very good businesswoman beyond By Erim. So was that just taught, or like did you just pick it up over time?
That's my dad in me, 100%.
So straight away it was from your dad?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, like you never accept like the first thing that someone offers you, ever.
But even just the way you carry yourself, did that happen over time? Because I know obviously when you were younger you was quite shy, and then obviously secondary school, like you built that confidence. So was it just a process and then you kind of bloomed into it?
I remember like in one of my English classes they asked us to write a poem about who we are. Everyone in the class, I think it was GCSE, they were like, I don't know who I am, I'm yet to find out. I was the only one in the class who was like, I am Erim, and not in a big-headed way, but I was just like I know who I am. And I think that confidence, especially, how old were you when you got your first job?
16.
So you were young as well. You know, when you're doing a customer-facing job, like I was doing hostessing, I think I was forced to grow up a little bit because I was speaking to people from all walks of life. And I think that helped me develop into who I am today.
That's actually a good point you touched on. A lot of people in our generation, like they they kind of want to get rich quick. They want to be successful overnight. They don't really want to work for it per se. They look at Erim and think, I want to be an influencer and, you know, I want to make money.
Listen, everyone says to me like, oh my God, you sold out in 20 minutes. I'm like, no, girl, it was 5 years and 20 minutes. Don't get it twisted.
So, like, what do you think is the importance of having a job, of potentially working in retail or customer-facing jobs, especially when it's your journey to success?
I think it's important. Like, I had one friend at uni and she would just do like a couple of weeks at a job, like something random like Nando's, a couple of weeks at a pharmacy, a couple of weeks at New Look, because she was like, I just want to gain as much information from there as possible and leave. And not to say, like, if you've been working at New Look for like 3 years to quit, don't. If you think you're still learning, continue learning. But for me, you know, as and when I have children, I will 100% push them to get jobs in retail or in
Customer-facing jobs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Toughen you, you know?
Yeah. I think also, like, not only does it toughen you, but you actually, it's like you're around people more than anything. And whilst you are like in school and everything, it's a different kind of ball game, and you understand the value of the pound as well. So if you're thinking of starting a business, I personally always say, you know, you should get a job, especially when you're young, because you learn the values more than anything. Now, we talked a lot about the success, you know, success of being an influencer, success of launching your own brand. What were some of the hardships along the way in the journey of towards your success, and how did you learn from that? Anything that you can think off the top of your mind?
I really struggle when it comes to like written communication, and this isn't from I got an A-star in my English A-level, so like I know how to write, but like I do not have that time, the manner. Like, if you ask any of my girlfriends, they're like, sis doesn't text. Like, if you need me, even if it's 3-second conversation, call me. And this really held me back in a lot of times, because before, obviously I have an agent now, but when I was doing it on my own, and it took me a long time to get an agent, I really, really, really was not used to that whole relationship building with these brands via written communication. And I really think that held me back, because I just didn't have the headspace. I always say I don't have the mental bandwidth to deal with texts, nor do I have that to deal with emails unless you catch me at the right time and I'm at my laptop and I can focus. I definitely would recommend to anyone here to just really fluff up their emails. If you're asking me to give anyone advice, ask them how they are, ask them how their weekend was. Even if you don't care, you should care. But if you don't, just still ask.
We have to break the ice a little bit.
100%. And like, it is just generally about manners. I think I was just being like, hi, thank you very much, £100, all the best, bye. Do you know what I mean? And I just don't think that was good for me with regards to relationship building. But then again, like, I outsource. Like, now I have an agent who sends these really polite emails for me.
So one of the other things that I really notice about your online image is that it looks very positive, and you portray yourself as, you know, it's like you're always positive. So especially right now, like whilst quarantine has just passed and things like that, what's your advice on positivity?
Mm-hmm. I think the key thing to remember, and maybe I've managed to trick you, is that like everyone's only posting the highlight reel. And there are days where I'm like lying in bed and I'm like crying and like I'm telling you guys I've got a headache, and I get like 1,000,001 sympathy messages and I feel 100% better. But there are so many, I've said this before, but I only show you guys 10% of my actual life, and I'm sure other influencers are more or less the same. You're just not seeing that moment where they got caught in the rain and they were in the queue for Tesco and no one was moving, the person behind them was starting an argument. You're just not seeing those moments. So in order to feel more positive about yourself, look at your own life objectively instead of comparing the minutiae of your day and of your life to the highlight reel of someone else's, because you're never going to live up. If I did that, I would be so sad all the time.
Yeah, definitely. I think you have to objectively like not compare yourself to others. Obviously, it's good to use others as role models and mentors and things like that, but your own life is your own process. So.
100%. And I think especially I really am proud of the title of role model whenever, like, you know, the two people that have ever told me that I'm their role model say that. I feel like...
I'm sure there's more than two people.
Maybe. I feel that I have a responsibility to them, and I have said this before, but if I am... You don't know, like I might not be this for anyone, but like if I'm the one positive thing on their feed and that's what they look forward to every day waking up, they know that I'm going to post a Waheguru, they know that I'm going to ask them how their day was in a little question box. And if I can be that for one person every single day, then I will continue showing up every single day for that one person.
Mm-hmm. So what does the future look like? Obviously, you've got to the point where you've built a huge following, your brand is only going up. What do you envision the rest of the year? Obviously, COVID has affected everything. But 2020, 2021, what's your vision?
You know what's so funny? Like, if you ask any of my friends, my life is an actual TV show. Like, where I am this week, I never thought last week I was going to be here. And not that I'm getting better, but there's just so many dramatic things happen. So I actually can't tell you. But do you know what? I wake up every morning, and I'm really excited. I'm like, who knows what could happen today? And I don't know how much you believe in terms of like energy and vibrations and spirituality, but I really do believe that when you open yourself up to what is out there, what can be offered, what can come your way, the good comes.
Okay. And finally, I know we touched up on like your advice for young entrepreneurs and anyone starting and wanting to become an influencer. What do you advise young people generally that are on the gram? You know, they're looking at all these pretty girls. Let's say they're female and they're looking at all these pretty girls and they feel like, okay, I'm not as good as this female, because I know that goes on a lot, you know. People get demotivated, they feel insecure. What's your advice for females feeling that kind of low? Not just females, males too, but mainly
definitely males as well, yeah. You know, like I think the majority of Asian girls on Instagram have like dyed hair, blonde hair, short hair. I'm one of the few that are really kept to the whole like Indian long black hair, centre parting type of thing. And I think a lot of girls are starting to do that now. Not that there's anything wrong with dyeing your hair, but I really believe that whatever makes you unique, embrace that. Because there is one thing about yourself. And if you're listening right now, I really want you to just think for a second, what is that one thing I love about myself? And embrace that one thing, because I guarantee 15 other girls are looking at you like, oh my God, I wish I had her lips. I wish I had her eyelashes. So just focus on that and let that be the thing that you kind of focus on when you're presenting yourself to the world. I also would advise, if you see a lot of girls like overly editing their photos, and not that there's anything wrong with that, it can be their aesthetic, and there are so many girls who I follow who I'm just like, I love the way you edit your photos, but maybe just stay away from that, because at the end of the day, I think Instagram and I think social media truly is such a beautiful and positive thing. With everything that's gone on, you know, with certain movements right now, like it's beautiful how they've gained traction. And if you are the one who's in charge of your feed, you're curating your feed, you are in charge of the people that you follow. If Instagram is making you sad, unfollow them. If following me makes you sad, unfollow me. Like, I would rather you were happy than followed me. Or anyone who made me sad. Just unfollow.
It's great advice. I think people, like, that's a great advice, because you control your Instagram. Like, a lot of the time you're complaining about these things, but you can literally press unfollow and not see that content if it makes you feel a certain
and
type
if
of
it's
way.
peaked to that person that you're unfollowing, restrict them, remove them as a follower, hide your story. There's so many features that I'm obsessed with.
Yeah,
Instagram.
restrict is like a relatively new one as well.
I restrict more people than I like their photos. Like, I'm always restricting.
So your feed is pretty clean.
Yeah, my feed is
it's
clean.
how you want it to be. So you mentioned quickly, let's touch upon TikTok. How do you think that's changed the game?
Oh my God, I love TikTok.
Because Instagram, like you said, you know, if you want to become an influencer now, it's pretty difficult on Instagram particularly. But TikTok has actually opened up a whole new division
Vortex.
of talent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on TikTok?
I'm obsessed with it. I was told to join it like 2 years ago and I didn't listen.
Really?
I don't know why I didn't, because I went to a conference and they were like, join it. And I was like, I don't know how to use it. Still, I don't know how to use TikTok. I don't know how I have so many followers. But
you have a loyal following, that's why.
Do you know what? They're very different though. It's so interesting. My TikTok followers, the way they talk to me is so different to my Instagram followers.
Really? So
like,
you think they're
they'll be
completely
like,
different
Erin,
people?
please reply. But on TikTok, whenever I respond, like they'll message me every single day and it's like nothing, which is cool. Like, I like having that.
You know, one thing that just came to my mind was that I think, I never actually thought about this before, but I think one of the beauties about you launching your own brand is sometimes I have this thought that, because my business is relatively dependent on social media as well, and sometimes I think to myself, like, what would happen if social media just turned off? Like, every account got deleted.
I would switch off and I would die. There would be no more Erim.
No, but as in, you've built a brand up until this point, so I think that's one of the advantages you have, because a lot of people, like, not bad mouthing anyone, but like their Instagram is them, like, in a sense where they are their following, and if you automatically remove that, it's like they don't know who they are anymore. But I think that's one of the beauties, is that you've built a brand, because that can stand alone without social media.
I don't know. I mean, that's never been tested. Majority of my sales, obviously, no, 100% of them are coming through my Instagram followers. I don't know, man. Like,
but you've built like something more, I think. So even if social media turned off, like your brand would stand alone? I think obviously we'll never know unless it happened, but it was just a random thought that came to my head.
I hope so.
So Erim, it's been amazing having you here. I think your audience and obviously my audience will really appreciate this and learn a lot from it too. For anyone that's not following you or your brand, what's the best place for them to find you?
So my Instagram is Erimstagram, and then my brand is By Erin. And I also want to say, Humza, you're really good at interviewing. You asked really good questions, and I was like, looking, does he have notes or anything? You don't, so well done.
That's a big compliment, but
you did really good. You did good.
Okay, so one more time, your socials?
Erimstagram, and By Erin.
And how can they actually buy your products?
ByErim.com.
Be sure to check that out, guys. Trust me, I haven't used it myself. I think I should actually. It's open for males, right?
Yeah, it's a beard oil as well.
So I'm definitely open to that. But I think obviously you can see by the passion that Erim shows that she's genuine when it comes to her product. So please go and support and let her know that you came from Recipe to Success as well. Thank you all for watching another episode. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify.